While a lone gunman opened fire and murdered 10 innocent people at a King Soopers grocery store in Boulder, Colorado, GOP Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who's from the state of Colorado, decided instead of tweeting about what was happening, she would tweet criticism toward Joe Biden instead. Now, look, there's a possibility that she was unaware of the shooting that was taking place as she was tweeting her insults to Joe Biden. But soon after a wave of tweets demanding that she address the shooting, she did offer more of what we've actually come to expect from Republican lawmakers. And this is what she said. My prayers, of course, my prayers are with the shoppers, employees, first responders, and others affected by the shooting in Boulder. May God be with them while we are still awaiting important information, blah, 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 blah. Violence, senseless acts of violence are never okay. Like, you get the point. It's the same that we've seen from other Republican lawmakers throughout years and years of several mass shootings. And that tweet, by the way, was followed by an email that she sent out like 2 hours later, okay, about how the GOP will not allow for any type of gun regulation. So as was tweeted by David Gura on Twitter, 2 hours after today's shooting in Boulder began, Representative Lauren Boebert's campaign sent her supporters an email with the subject line, quote, I told Beto O'Rourke, hell no to taking our guns. Now we need to tell Joe Biden. For those of you who are tired of these empty thoughts and prayers, just know that this is not something that's isolated with Lauren Boebert. We got more of that from Senator Ted Cruz as well. This is what he had to say in a recent hearing about mass shootings in America.
I agree it's a time for actions. And by the way, I don't apologize for thoughts or prayers. I will lift up in prayer people who are hurting. And I believe in the power of prayer. And the contempt of Democrats for prayers is an odd sociological thing. But I also agree thoughts and prayers alone are not enough. We need action.
I just think the very existence of Ted Cruz in the Senate is an odd sociological thing. Like, I don't know how that man is thought to be a good representative of anyone in this country, but nonetheless, what he's trying to do is make it seem as though religion is being persecuted here, when in reality, empty thoughts and prayers in lieu of actually doing your job is what's infuriating people. Thoughts and prayers on Twitter mean nothing. And by the way, for Democrats, your chest thumping tweets about what needs to be done also mean nothing. Just get off of Twitter and do something, right? In fact, the first thing the Democrats need to do is find a way to get rid of the filibuster or reform it to a point where it doesn't serve as a giant obstacle to actually getting something done legislatively. But Woz, what do you make of this? Are we being too harsh to people who want to share their thoughts and prayers?
No, I don't think so. I think we're being probably not harsh enough. What you see oftentimes with this issue with Republicans is that they find it to be an opportunistic one, because the reason why I said this is the abortion of the right, even though the abortion is the abortion of the right too, is that people mobilize, fundraise, get active behind this very issue in a way like that email got sent out, and I bet she got some money funneled into her, her campaign, right? And so it's something that they often run on. They know they can energize the base on, and conversely, you'll never see them go against the Second Amendment in any meaningful way. Oftentimes, you'll see people like the Democrats come out and say, maybe we could cut Social Security. Maybe Medicare isn't that important. You'll see them when they want to be quote unquote brave, go against things that they should ideologically be 1000% in support of, in ways that you will just never, ever see a Ted Cruz type go against guns that way. And again, you see it with anything like cops, like when the cops shoot somebody on the streets or choke somebody out. It's like, we gotta make the cops better, but we still love the cops. And Joe Biden's gonna talk about increasing funding and all of that, right? But you'll never see the Republicans ever go after guns. They won't even hint at it because they know better than that. These guys are all spineless. They're all running scared from their base.
No, I mean, it's such a good point. Republicans never bend on anything. In fact, a good recent example illustrating what you just mentioned is the upcoming $3 trillion proposal, infrastructure proposal coming from Joe Biden's administration. The talks and negotiations are preliminary. We're gonna talk about that in more detail later in the show. Become a member to get the full show at tyt.com/join. But already you have so-called centrist Democrats saying like, oh, but no, I mean, but you're offering things that are super popular that would make our party really popular. No, we need to think about bipartisan legislating. Like F off, please F off. Like if you're just gonna be a pathetic, feckless Republican bootlicker, why are you in office? Like go do something else, go be a lobbyist, like go make money doing something else, but stop wasting your constituents' time with these disgusting bad faith arguments. Anyway, we have more from Ted Cruz because he claims that he actually wants to offer more than thoughts and prayers. It's just that he wants to lie about what people actually want to do with gun legislation first. So let's hear a little more of that.
And every time there's a shooting, we play this ridiculous theater where this committee gets together and proposes a bunch of laws that would do nothing to stop these murders. Senator from Connecticut just said the folks on the other side of the aisle have no solutions. Well, the senator from Connecticut knows that is false. And he knows that's false because Senator Grassley and I together introduced legislation, Grassley-Cruz, targeted at violent criminals, targeted at felons, targeted at fugitives, targeted at those with serious mental disease, to stop them from getting firearms, to put them in prison when they try to illegally buy guns. What happens in this committee after every mass shooting is Democrats propose taking away guns from law-abiding citizens because that's their political objective. But what they propose, not only does it not reduce crime, it makes it worse.
No, Democrats are not proposing taking guns away from law-abiding citizens. Proposals from Democrats include things like requiring universal background checks, closing the gun show loophole that allows you to purchase a weapon from a private seller without undergoing a background check. They want to ban the future sale, in some cases, not all Democrats, but there have been proposals, including from Joe Biden, to ban the future sale of assault weapons, and also block the sale of, this shouldn't even be controversial, bump stock devices that effectively convert semi-automatic rifles into automatic rifles. Like, why is this difficult, right? No one's saying like, oh, let's go target Jim Bob, who likes to go hunting in Arkansas. Like, no one's saying that. If you are a legal gun carrier, you're a law-abiding gun owner, no one's targeting you. But Republicans in Congress, just like with Senator Cruz in the video you just saw, consistently lie to the American people about what the proposed gun legislation would do. And the argument that, no, we can't have any type of regulation because criminals are gonna break the law anyway. Okay, great, then why do we have any laws to begin with, right? Like, it just makes no sense, Woz, and it's really frustrating.
Well, it's tough because I hear Ted Cruz spew lies and nonsense and weasel speak, which is basically his default posture. And then I have to watch him with that ridiculous mullet on his head. I mean, can we propose a law in Congress that would confiscate the mullet of every law-abiding citizen in America? I mean, look at that thing. It's a shag, it's ridiculous. Anna, and Jim Bob would probably agree with me, I'm telling you. Shouts to Jim Bob and his cousin.
It's just, when the people leading these debates engage in bad faith arguments, then the American people, people don't have accurate information. And so if you are a law-abiding citizen, if you've done nothing wrong, but you enjoy hunting, right? You do have weapons, but you're responsible. You'll hear this fear-mongering from the right wing. And don't forget that there's a lot of corruption involved as well, because gun manufacturers certainly do not want gun regulation. That means that their bottom line is going to be negatively impacted, right? But when you hear this fear mongering, unfortunately, there's a giant part of the country that buys into it. But you need to have regulation to limit the possibility of bad actors, criminals, getting their hands on these types of guns. So one thing that I absolutely laughed at in regard to this story was the reaction coming from Democrats like Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who vowed to bring House-passed gun control bills to the floor for debate and a vote, forcing his GOP colleagues to go on the record with their stance on the legislation. What are you talking about, Schumer? What are you talking about? What? You don't even need to do that. They're on the record. They're proud of it. They flaunt it. They fundraise off of it, right? I mean, doing this kind of vote on legislation where you suspect lawmakers are lying just to pander to voters, that's one thing. That is not happening here. Republicans proudly say what they want to say about trying to destroy any attempts at common sense gun legislation. What Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer needs to focus on is getting rid of the filibuster. That's what he needs to focus on. Bringing something like this up for a vote will accomplish nothing. It will fail, and it will fail with Republicans bragging about how they led to its failure. And it's a political win for them.
Yeah, and I would encourage everybody to just remember, I mentioned voting rights, how Republicans have gone about systemically gutting just some of the pillars of American democracy within the various state legislatures, Republican-controlled state legislatures across the country. Please do be advised to remember the drug war, right? Just think about the laws that we enacted, criminalizing behavior such as just smoking crack, or dealing crack, or selling cocaine, or buying weed, or just think about the laws that we enacted against those activities. These victimless crimes, essentially. I mean, sure, there's some tax evasion going on, but we'll talk about later and how tax evasion doesn't really seem to be that big of a deal either. But just think about the authoritarian laws that were enacted to combat what we considered to be a scourge on society, which was this ridiculous racist drug war. And now look at how they operate in and around the gun issue. It's obvious where the priorities lie. Obviously, the Dems don't feel like they have the political capital or just the stomach or want to get anything done on this front. And so I guess you can see why we're in the state of affairs that we find ourselves in today.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, we really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.